What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. We got a lot to talk about here today. First, we'll talk about here the unsealed affidavit that was unsealed by a judge, and former President Donald Trump wanted it unsealed. He didn't know what was going to be in there. It does have some incriminating evidence. And first, one of the defenses that Trump was going for, and a lot of Republicans were saying here, is that the Department of Justice and the National Archives, they all could have just asked for these classified documents back. Well, apparently there was months and months and months that they were asking for these documents, and Trump wasn't giving it to them. And the sealed affidavit that was now been unsealed, the unredacted portions say this. Yeah, take a listen.
After the FBI search of Mar-a-Lago, allies of Donald Trump insisted that the action itself was politically motivated. They claimed that if the feds really wanted those documents, all they had to do was ask. House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy was so livid, he threatened to launch an investigation into the DOJ and Attorney General Merrick Garland, at one point arguing, why wouldn't they just ask the president if they had something there that they wanted? He surely would have provided it to them. Why did they have to show up in the manner that they did? Indeed. It turns out that the authorities did ask for access. And now even Fox News viewers are being educated on that specific point.
Going back to the New York Post headline in the middle of all of this, you could have just asked.
They were asking. How many times, we don't know, but the impression in the affidavit is that they asked for them multiple times. And President Trump has said several times all they had to do was ask. Well, my sense is they were asking for a year and a half. And why he was holding on to these materials when he had no legal authority to do so under the Presidential Records Act is beyond me.
Again, that is Karl Rove saying the federal government did ask multiple times over a year and a half. So there goes that argument. A small group of fervent Trump supporters have moved on to a new talking point, claiming that there are simply too many redactions in the affidavit and that there is just no transparency. Look at all that black ink. The third-ranking Republican in the House, Elise Stefanik, told Fox News, quote, the American people deserve transparency and not an outrageously heavily redacted affidavit to cover up for and politically protect Joe Biden and the FBI for this dangerous and un-American overreach. Who is to say that if we were to learn what was in those redactions, that they'd necessarily be good for Donald Trump? I mean, that is perhaps why the reaction from the overwhelming majority of Republicans has simply been silence. As the New York Times notes, even the most bombastic Republicans, people like Representatives Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert, they were initially focused elsewhere in the hours after the affidavit was released. They were tweeting about things like border invasions. And as the Washington Post points out, even GOP leaders like Congressman Kevin McCarthy and Senator Mitch McConnell have gone mum. Neither man has responded to requests for comment tonight from the Washington Post.
Even in heavily redacted form, the affidavit points out that there was a prolonged process lasting around 7 months in 2021 before Trump's team coughed up any documents at all. It gives a far less friendly account than Team Trump has done of events in June of this year. The former president and his allies have, for instance, described an affable visit to Mar-a-Lago by a senior DOJ official, Jay Bratt, and 3 FBI agents on June 3rd. According to Trump legal filing earlier this week, one of the FBI agents have been shown the storage room in which some documents were held, purportedly saying, now it all makes sense. The same Trump filing refers to a June 8th letter in which the Department of Justice that the storage room must be secured, a request that is implied to have been met when Trump told staff to put a second lock on the door. By contrast, the Department of Justice affidavit quotes a letter on the same date, presumably the same letter, reiterating to a Trump lawyer that there was, quote, no secure location authorized for storage of classified information anywhere on the resort. The letter makes clear that the Department of Justice request was not some generalized security checkup, but a demand for the preservation of the storage room in its current condition until further notice, phasing that it is far more redolent of an investigation of a possible crime scene than a friendly chat about padlocks. The filing also includes, as an exhibit, a May 2022 letter from Trump lawyer Evan Corcoran to Bratt, the head of counterintelligence section of the DOJ's National Security Division. In the letter, he argues that presidents have absolute authority to declassify documents, and that in any event, no president can be prosecuted for actions involving classified documents. Those claims are contentious and, again, strike a different tone than the one Trump and his allies have sought to portray. And this blows that all to smithereens. A former U.S. attorney and deputy assistant that the DOJ sought out missing documents and has for months now. And the affidavit seeking the search warrant is at the end of an exasperating, very long, very prolonged dallying by them that would never be put up with from any other citizen. Meanwhile, a footnote in the affidavit made clear that the classification status on the documents in question would not have a make or break bearing on at least one of the possible crimes being investigated. Meanwhile, Biden scoffs at Trump, claiming that Trump declassified the documents at Mar-a-Lago, saying, come on. Remember when he said, come on, man? Previously, President Biden on Friday dismissed the claim from former President Donald Trump that he broadly declassified all the boxes of White House documents he took to Florida after leaving office. Biden was dismissive about Trump's claim that he had declassified the documents that were being kept at his Mar-a-Lago estate after the Justice Department released an affidavit that offered some new information about the materials recovered there. Biden said sarcastically, quote, I've declassified everything in the world. I'm president. He said, waving his hands in the air. Come on, saying sarcastically. So, as I said, this whole story is taking a turn every day. It's new information. And this now unsealed document that, remember, the Department of Justice did not want to unseal because of an ongoing investigation. They didn't want to unseal it at all. And now it's revealed information that basically said that they were trying to get these documents for many months from former President Donald Trump, and they weren't complying. And then they had to do the search warrant to go in there and do the search and seizure, which former President Donald Trump calls a raid and says that he's being politically targeted. But really, this affidavit shows that they were in the process of trying to get this from him for many months. So you can let me know if you think he's being politically targeted, but they were trying to get this for months. And this is what this affidavit shows, and they have this whole procedure documented and stuff. So yeah. Next up, Elizabeth Warren points out that Mitch McConnell graduated from a school that cost $330 a year amid his criticisms of Biden's student loan forgiveness. He can spare us the lectures on fairness of student loan forgiveness. Is this for real? Is this actually a real thing that Mitch McConnell went to a school? I mean, I know the guy's old, right? But is this a real thing that he went to a school back in the day that cost $330 a year? Wow. And I mean, now we have schools that cost $50,000 a year. My, how times have changed. And you think about all the teachers and the nurses and the average everyday working people out there that are trying to pay off their student loans that can't. The interest alone, they're just paying payments just to cover the interest. Elizabeth Warren pushed back, noting that Mitch McConnell went to college when tuition was $330 a year. Wow. Many Republicans have been on the offense after Biden's $20,000 debt cancellation announcement. The $20,000 only goes to students that are the lowest income at Pell Grant recipients, that are really low income students that would need it the most. I mean, it's like those are people that like get food stamps and stuff, right? And Republican lawmakers have been quick to slam this and may even challenge it, potentially going to the Supreme Court here. Mitch McConnell graduated from the University of Louisville in 1964 when the annual tuition cost was $330. That was like 60 years ago almost. Wow. That's unbelievable. Some Republicans have introduced legislation attempts to address higher education costs without student loan relief. But remember, Democrats tried to pass 2 years of free college that would have been for, I think it was for state colleges. And in the first version of the Build Back Better package, and all the Republicans voted no on that. And remember that then they had to basically rely on getting Joe Manchin's vote because no Republicans would vote on it, and not a single Republican would vote on it. So they only needed one Republican to vote on it to get that passed, and that hasn't been able to be passed. So this is the problem here, is that Republicans, if you have other solutions, we would love to hear it. But like, if you have a child that is going to go, or a young adult, maybe I should say, that's going to go to college, it's $15,000, $20,000. Some colleges are $50,000 a year if you include room and board. Which, if you're not going to live at home, you have to do that. It's $25,000 to $50,000 a year, and you have to pay for food. How do you afford that? How do you afford that? And then when you pack on the interest alone, it's unaffordable. It's unaffordable. So, and this is the problem here, is then you come out of college and you expect these young adults to then pay for it. We covered in a previous video a lady who, it was the mom. Somebody commented on their mom who was 69 years old and was a nurse and was still paying on their student loans. And she was a nurse, and she had served other people caring for them. And she was 69 years old, still paying on their student loans. This is the problem people have. And that was she was paying on them from 40 years ago from a nurse. Imagine how much being a nurse costs today. And again, so this is the problem here. Like, right now, it's student loans getting help. Next month, there's going to be a food assistance conference. We've had rent assistance, mortgage assistance, utility assistance. We've had states getting help right now, with like almost half the states sending out state stimulus checks right now. But like, if the student loans get pulled back, say it gets challenged in a court and potentially stricken, and Republicans challenge it and say it's not going to go through, we're not going to help out these 40 million Americans. What's next? What if the next one is the next one that passes the Social Security raise? What if that one gets challenged in a court of law and they say, nope, we're not going to pass that one either. We're going to pull that one back. Or what if the next one is the food stamp raise, or the food assistance raise? And what if that one gets challenged in a court of law and they say, nope, we're not going to let that one pass? What if the next one is, and again, whoever I'm talking to right now, because I talk to tens of thousands of people in every video, what if the student loan raise or the student loan forgiveness is for you? And imagine if they redact that or they pull that back, and you don't get that. Imagine how you're gonna feel. Or imagine if the next stimulus program is for food assistance, food stamp raise, or the next one is a Social Security raise, or the next one is a paycheck protection program, or the next one is any type of stimulus program in the future, and then one of the parties challenges it, and then they take it away from you. Imagine the precedence this sets. And if we look back in the past, Republicans and former President Donald Trump did this, okay? Or, I mean, they passed programs like this, like Biden's doing with student loan forgiveness right now, okay? Former President Donald Trump passed an executive order to pass $1,800 worth of unemployment bonus checks for unemployed Americans with an executive order, okay? This was right before the election. Okay, we go back to 2020, right before the election, with Biden and Trump. He passed an executive order to use the disaster relief funds, and he used an executive order to send out checks to millions of Americans. Okay, executive order, checks to millions of Americans, and that was $300 per week, and he just sent out the money. Executive order. Democrats were thinking about potentially challenging it in a court, but they didn't. And I said, because again, I'm not from either party, I said it would be a mistake for the Democrats to challenge that. Because why would you want to take away help from millions of Americans who need it? In that case, it was unemployed Americans who just recently lost their job. And I'll say this right now for the Republicans. Last time it was for the Democrats. I said it would be a mistake for Democrats to do that. This time I'll say it would be a mistake for Republicans to do it. A mistake for millions of Americans who struggle with student loans every day. And again, either way, whether it was unemployed Americans or whether it's people who struggle for decades paying on their student loans, people like nurses, people like teachers, people that literally go to college and spend $50,000 or $100,000 to get a degree for an average everyday paying job. Some of them don't even get a degree. Life happens and they still have to pay. And again, what about the next program? What about when it's a food stamp raise, or it's a Social Security raise, or it's a state program, it's rent assistance, mortgage assistance, utility assistance? I just think it sets a bad precedence. Right now, there's 60% of Americans that need help, that are struggling, and they pass the program, and then what do we say? Oh, no. We're gonna try to challenge it and not help these people. If you really look at all the different programs that have been going on, if you watch my channel on a daily basis, there's a lot of programs that are going on. And if you cumulatively look at them all, we've had stimulus check 1, 2, 3, student loan forgiveness, SNAP program raises, child tax credits, unemployment bonuses, paycheck protection programs, rent assistance, mortgage assistance, utility assistance. If you add up all these different programs that have kind of happened throughout the months and years, there's a lot of different stuff that have been there, and I can't even think of all off the top of my head. But imagine if like they were all taken back, and one party, either party, Democrats or Republicans, said, "No, we don't want to let the other party help those Americans." Imagine if it was you. Imagine if you were getting the student loan forgiveness, or if you were getting the food stamp raises. Because remember, about half the states are still giving food stamp raises every month. Imagine if one of the parties said, "No, we don't want to let you get money for food stamps. We're going to challenge that and say, nope, no money for people getting food stamps anymore. We're going to challenge that in a court of law." Or we're going to say, nope, no money for people on Social Security. We're going to challenge that. This is the problem with our society here. I say, let's be happy for our fellow men, our fellow women, our fellow children, our fellow Americans, and say, okay, what's next? Let's look at all the programs that have happened in the past, all the help that's come during this pandemic, and say, what's next? What's next? And say, good job, whoever did it. Republicans have done stuff in the past. Democrats are doing stuff now just because they happen to be in power. What's next? And for Republicans that say they don't like this for whatever reason, say, okay, what's your solution? What would you like to do to help Americans going forward? Not just, we don't like this. Okay, what's your solution? You're in Congress. What's your solution to help out people? Right? Tweet, call, email your congressman and say, okay, what's your solution to help out people? So let me know your thoughts here in the Congress or in the comments, and I will keep you up to date here. Make sure to subscribe down below to our YouTube channel. It's completely free to do so. Just click the subscribe button, then the bell icon, so you don't miss out on new videos. And I will keep you up to date here. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button for us here as well. You can click this video here to watch my newest video next. And you can click this video here to see about the $2,400 Social Security raise that could be coming out here soon, and Social Security payment schedule. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.